I consider my purpose, and this is, both personally and professionally, to connect the hearts and minds of people around the world so that together we can make it a better place. And being able to bring people together for learning, immersion, connection, transformation. I'm a very international person. I lived in Japan, Australia, around the globe, other places. It is a role that is deeply fulfilling and meaningful and that I get joy from. Maybe it is the role that is the essence of my Ikigai or the manifestation of my Ikigai.
This is episode 118 of the Ikigai Podcast, and this is a special one I recorded with Katie Anderson last month, November of 2025 in Tokyo. This one was recorded with no preparation, on the fly and in person, just after I had the pleasure of being a guest on Katie's 8th Japan Leadership Experience. We discussed how we connected, our journey to the work we do, our Japan leadership trips, how our work is our Ikigai, and how our Ikigai often involves connecting with others. We touched on revitalization, roles, community, kaizen, embracing the essence of concepts rather than having the desire to change them, and creating the space to learn from others so that you can lead with more intention. I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I enjoyed recording it. Katie Anderson.
Nick Kemp.
Let's begin where we began. So that was in June of 2024. I had you on my podcast, episode 87. And
then we met in Nagoya in November of 2024 when you were just finishing your first Ikigai Tribe retreat, and I was leading the 6th of my Japan leadership experiences and had you on my podcast recently, I believe episode 53 of Chain of Learning. And then we manifested a week together in Japan. Nick just joined me on the 8th cohort of my Japan leadership experience and was thrilled to have him and his co-author Daiki Kato come speak about rolefulness and just be part of the whole experience. And it was really fantastic to spend the week together, Nick. And we decided we would have a live in Tokyo, or at least recorded live in Tokyo, conversation to reflect on the week and also some of our key learnings and reflections about our times living and working in Japan and the experiences that have really just been integrated into our personal philosophy of life and leadership.
And I think we agreed that we would frame this as this work is our Ikigai, bringing people together. I actually was inspired by you. You sort of gave me the final push to take the risk and do my first retreat last year. So thank you. So you're my inspiration. And yeah, I've had this amazing journey the last week, learning how you do things. You have a larger group. You have more logistics. So it's amazing. I think the thing that stands out for me is how you've got all this support from all these Japanese people through referral, through recommendations, through long-term relationships. So I think that's a theme we both have. We've managed to have these people join us on our journey and support us. So do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And for some context for people who don't know about Nick or me, I mean, Nick, you lived in Japan for many, many years and speak Japanese pretty well. I'd say I was very impressed this week and currently lives in Australia. I lived in Tokyo for almost 2 years in 2015 and 16 and have continued to come back. I'm based in California, although I lived in Australia for 4 years. So we have another shared connection there. But something we've both realized and deeply know through our experience here, and I think through life, is that relationships are at the core of it and connection. And especially here in Japan, most things happen through deep personal connections and then making those connections and people then connecting you to others as well. And so one of the things that makes me so happy about being able to offer these Japan leadership experiences is to share the really special relationships that I've nurtured and cultivated over years and how those relationships have actually opened doors to so many more things, like the special experience at Ina Foods. I'm the only foreign, person they welcome for tours, and it's just incredible. And that's because of the relationships I have with other Japanese business leaders who also were part of the group. And I think you've had the same thing as well. And it's not like you can just show up in Japan and like go do something. I mean, there are some like, plug and play things, but it's really about deep cultivated relationships.
Yeah, I think there's obviously trust. There is this subtlety to the relationship. You have to understand how far you can go and what to ask for. And it's complex, but once you're on board, they'll do anything for you. So that's what surprised me. It's like, wow, you have so many supporters here. And it really made the trip very unique, very special access to these factories, inner foods, which was amazing. So it really begins with relationship, and it seems to also evolve into a type of, in some cases, friendship. And so I guess for you, we should touch on it. It really started with your desire to get to know Mr. Yoshino and his work at Toyota, and then obviously led to your book. So was that the beginning? And you obviously you had no idea it would pan out to you doing these study trips.
No. So when my family moved to Japan in 2015, I knew that I wanted to learn as much as I could about Japanese culture, about business. I come from the world of applying and practicing kaizen and continuous improvement in organizations, the birthplace of the Toyota production system. I wanted to learn as much as I could for myself and also share that with others. And so I started writing a blog, as we did. We didn't do video 10 years ago, so things have evolved. And share it with others. And that then grew. I'm a connector. And I mean, I think this is why you and I immediately connected with each other, that our Ikigai is connecting with people and having experiences and learning and sharing. It really is what lights us up, both of us up. And we can talk more about that concept of Ikigai and how that plays out in our work as well. But I didn't know what it would lead to, but I knew that I wanted to take advantage of the opportunity from a place of learning. And so I had met Mr. Yoshino, and he'd offered me the opportunity to go visit him in Nagoya, which I did. I also was meeting people in Tokyo, which is how I met Toshiko Kawanami, who ended up being an incredibly important connection for me. I led my very first one-day tour while I was living in Japan still. And through that relationship, I met many, many people and has really built my chain of learning. And then through Mr. Yoshino as well, of course, the time spent there writing my blog became the basis and the genesis of our book, Learning to Lead, Leading to Learn. But so I had an inkling of a possibility, but that wasn't the goal. It was to take advantage of this deep immersive learning experience. And now I have that opportunity to share that with others. And that really just gives me so much joy. So we're all both a little tired after a week. So our reflections may be a little all over the place. But I think that when you are living something that really gives you energy and purpose, that it almost doesn't matter how the tiredness, like you get so much joy and energy. And I even feel right now I'm getting re-energized, revitalized, one might say, through just talking with you right now. I feel my energy picking up. And so that maybe that is really what the sense of Ikigai is about. It's what gives you energy and that sense of purpose and joy and meaning in life.
Well, that's what attracted me to you when I saw your videos on, I think you were talking about that barber system. Yeah. And I thought, wow, who is this woman with so much energy and love for Japan? And it is a love for Japan, isn't it? It's like you love to learn, love to uncover the culture. But I think you're right. It's the relationships. It's building these relationships. And I feel so privileged. Yeah, we're now connected and we're probably going to open doors for each other, all that sort of thing. One thing I do want to touch on, I think you celebrated recently, a few months ago, wasn't it 10,000 copies sold of your book?
A little bit, a while ago.
So, yes, And so that was, I guess, the second step to your journey. You connected with Yoshino, and then you interviewed him, and so you wrote this book. Yeah, what was that like? And I guess keeping it in this context of doing your study trips. Hey, it's Nick here. Do you want to become an Ikigai coach? The Ikigai Tribe Coach certification is the only program supported and endorsed by Japan's leading Ikigai experts. You'll learn authentic research, practical coaching tools, and join a global community of coaches making a real impact. Find out more at ikigaitribe.com. rolefulness.com. Now back to the episode.
Oh, so that's, I feel like they're related, but separate. The conversations with Mr. Yoshino actually kind of paralleled. I think if I go back in time, my process of starting to offer the Japan leadership experience, which I was calling the Japan study trip, but it really kind of reframed because it's an experience. It's not just a trip, and it's not just the week in Japan. I mean, it's happened, all the pre-trip learning that happens and the post, the things that follow up. It's a broader experience. So I think a trip was sort of a misnomer, and it's not just studying, it's really leadership and so much more. Actually, I'm now even framing it, it's like going on, a journey to discover the essence of what it means to hold precious, what it is to be human. I mean, that's really the underlying. So it's so much more than lean and continuous improvement. But anyway, I digress. When I returned to the United States at the end of 2016, Mr. Yoshino and I continued our conversations. And I have this deep love for Japan, and I wasn't ready for that experience to end. So I continued to come back and forth. And he and I were partnering all over the globe. We were going to the Netherlands a lot, actually, and the US, and giving lectures and workshops. And it was then where we thought, well, maybe we should codify some of this more concretely. That we're like his lessons from 40 years of Toyota and my experience and sort of being able to reframe and kind of synthesize those experiences and contextualize them for people happened concurrently with the opportunity to start pulling together and creating my Japan leadership experience. So I both led my first program in 2018 and started purposeful interviews with the intention of writing a book in 2018. So they sort of parallel process there. And then led another trip in 2019 and had two planned for 2020, which is the same year that I published the book. We all know what happened in 2020. So that really threw a spanner in the works on so many things. But we have to respond to how life happens. So I'm really happy. Like, I've been leading these programs every 6 months since Japan opened up again, and hope to continue for a while. It gives me so much joy. And I think the greatest value for me, in addition to like the enriched learning in Japan, is the community that's built. Yep. And I mean, you experienced that this week too, just the purposeful coming together as a community. And that lasts for so much longer, of the cohort, of the international group that comes together.
Yeah, it felt like a roaming ibasho. I love this word ibasho, which...
What does ibasho mean for those people who haven't been listening to Nick for a while?
Has several meanings. It's basically, it means it's a place where you can be yourself. It can be a physical place, or it can be a social niche, a context. And so I think in your case, in the past week, it has been this group of people who didn't really know each other, only through the pre-trip calls, and some from the same company. But yeah, we come together and we're sharing this journey of learning, getting to know each other, sharing meals together. But I think you built trust and community really quickly, like on the first day. And yeah, it's the inhuman experience that makes ibasho meaningful. So opportunity to be yourself, to connect with others, and also have this perspective of the future's looking bright, which I think all of your participants now have. They have work to do, takeaways to put into action, learning they'll apply. And it's not just about the work stuff. It's also some personal development. And they also discover Japan, yeah? So it's a great ibasho to experience in Japan. And I was really grateful I could contribute and bring Daiki along. And I guess that's part of the ibasho experience, what you learn. People got to know him. We all went to dinner. He had a good time. So I think we have this role that it's not just these Japanese people are benefiting us. We're benefiting them. We're giving them opportunity to meet maybe foreigners. I don't think Daiki had... Daiki Kato's the co-author of my book, Rolefulness, a good friend, and I don't think he had ever experienced something like that before. So he was really happy. So thank you for having me and Daiki talk on Rolefulness. But you had many subjects. So what was the one thing you really enjoyed facilitating or teaching or doing?
That's a hard question to answer because the whole experience. But I wanted to build on what you were just saying before, Nick, and the word revitalize. And that's something I talk about in the beginning, about how this word revitalize is used often in Japan. And I've never heard it elsewhere in terms of why companies focus on kaizen and continuous improvement and engaging people in empowered problem solving at all levels and to really make the work better. And it's about revitalizing industry. It's about revitalizing the company, and it's about revitalizing human spirit. And so I really feel like there's a sense of energeticness that comes from this experience, or people feel revitalized from a deeply personal place, and then revitalized from their leadership and work perspective as well. So I love that word revitalize. And yeah. So what is my favorite part? That's a really hard thing. So there's so many elements. Of course, it's about having at the very base level and having an incredible experience, which hands down it is like everyone always says it's an incredible experience. But really the transformation that happens in guiding people through an intentional, structured journey where you think you're coming for a certain reason, which is to learn about maybe business and how to create a culture of operational excellence and improvement, which you absolutely do. But it's the deeper uncovering truly of holding precious what it means to be human and what that means for yourself, and really connecting with purpose and meaning and meaningfulness. And then how do you translate that in your various roles? And like we talked about, like rolefulness, and whether or not it's your personal roles in life, your professional roles, and so much more. I think there's so much happens behind the scenes about how do you structure an experience with intention so that people go on a journey and build upon it step by step. And so I think that sort of secret sauce or the behind the scenes is actually something that I really enjoy, because it's the putting together of the experience and then letting it unfold and facilitating that. And of course, having a great time at the same time too, because what people feel they can be themselves when they feel community and they have a space that's being held for them. Yeah.
Yeah, it is hard to label one thing as the best experience. But I was pretty amazed at how well run it was, and a lot of logistics. I mean, you're spending a lot of money on, bus drivers, commercial bus, and
good hotels,
hotels, food. Obviously, there would be speaker fees. So you've put a lot of love, thought, and it takes a lot of work. And I think you're right, behind the scenes, I think the planning and the visualization and the kind of hope you have for what will unfold is quite exciting. So that's what I experienced with my first retreat, like planning it, and we'll do this and do that, and we'll have this speaker. So yeah, it's kind of amazing how you can create this. And I mean, on my presentation on rolefulness, I talked about you as, you've created this unique role. So we have like this general rolefulness, specific rolefulness, where you take a common role, but you match it to your values and behaviors. But we also have this idea of unique role, which you've created. And yeah, it sort of occurred to me, wow, you've had so much impact. You've done this 8 times. You've connected with so many Japanese. You've changed lives, you've inspired people, but it seems so natural to you that you should do this. So I really think you've found a role, or your role. So does it feel like that to you?
Absolutely. I consider my purpose, and this is both personally and professionally, to connect the hearts and minds of people around the world so that together we can make it a better place. And I feel like this role, I feel like being able to bring people together for learning, immersion, connection, and transformation. And I on travel, because I'm a very international person. I lived in Japan, Australia, around the globe, other places. It really is. It is a role that is deeply fulfilling and meaningful, and that I get joy from. So maybe it is the role that is the essence of my Ikigai, or the manifestation of my Ikigai as well. Like that thing that gets me up in the morning, and that it's it gives me so much joy in meeting. And now I have had over 140 global leaders from, I don't know how many countries, at least 20 countries, so many different languages coming together in community for learning with me on this journey. I have more next year in 2026 coming. And the relationships I've built. And so like in December of 2025, I'm going to the UK for a personal trip, but also bringing together different people from several different cohorts, and they're going to connect. And it really is this global chain of learning. And it's not just like a phrase. It's like deeply meaningful. It's authentic, right? And so it is that joy. And the same with you. And I felt this connection when we first met, and that's why I was like, let's make this happen, manifest it. And that's how the world happens. So let's dive into some of the like concepts too that you had some new learnings on this experience because you haven't had as much exposure to sort of the Japanese business side from a kaizen operations perspective, but also we have some shared essence of learning that we both want to bring to people because it's like deeply this balance between Japanese approach and the West and sort of the melding of the best of both.
I think I had my biggest learning was when we went to one of the factories and they were talking about the number of kaizen they'd done for the year to date. And it was like 400, over 400. And I was shocked. I thought, okay, this is kaizen, and they might do it for the smallest thing. And then systems, there's so many systems. People know what to do. It's very clear. And I also got that distinction, the clearness on their role.
Yes.
There's no half-assed attitude. Japanese come to work. But I really love that idea that kaizen is not made by the management or the board or whatever. It's the people at the gemba. We heard this expression, go to the gemba all the time, yeah. So that too, I knew that expression and that term and that practice, but to see it. And so we saw it unfold several times with different factory leaders.
Yeah, the senior leaders.
Yeah.
And it was clear they weren't just like coming down on the tour, right? Like the people knew them, right?
And they're wearing, they're not wearing a suit, they're wearing the company uniform. You could just mistake them for a regular worker. So that really gave me a perspective like, oh, wow, they do kaizen all the time and it never ends. And it comes from kind of like the creativity of each employee. They see a problem, this can be fixed. They write the appropriate form. They come up with their own solution. They test it and see if it works. That was really amazing to think, wow, I've finally seen how it occurs. And I think I shared that word, this idea of chanto, like doing things properly. It's not perfection. It's just do things properly all the time. And that really stood out too. So one thing that I found kind of amusing was the number of kaizen compared to the States.
Oh, yeah.
So do you want to touch on that?
Well, I had a professor talk about, gave some historical context. And those of you in the States would know this inherently, that there was research studies from many, many years ago, but I imagine it's fairly the same. And it's just talked about how the Japanese have a greater focus on kaizen and continuous improvement. And I think the number was like, one per person or in organizations where they were doing this. So, but we were talking about different motivations and how levels of anxiety and complacency. So I'm definitely going to be sharing more about some of this research that we learned. And so I thought that was really fascinating in terms of how different cultures have different, you want a sense of urgency. The urgency is sort of that sweet spot, right? And some cultures tend to have more of a sense of anxiety, which is maybe a more negative expression of urgency, where there's like fear and like sort of you're paralyzed. And then there's complacency on the other hand, which is where you're just sort of, everything's fine. I don't really need to contribute. And so Western cultures and US tend to have more of a sense of complacency, which explains why there are fewer kaizen. And Japanese cultures and some of the Eastern cultures tend to have a little bit more of a sense of anxiety. But the sweet spot is when management and leadership is able to bring both of those sides together to create a sense of urgency and contribution. And so I really want to emphasize it's not just, yes, there are more kaizen that happens, but it's not across all companies. There's, we saw some companies that are just getting started. It still requires intentional leadership and creating the systems and structures that encourage and enable people to contribute. But really that desire to contribute is really strong, and that desire to do things properly and really apply yourself is a trait that I do admire in the Japanese culture.
Another key learning or observation was at some workplaces, a lot of their work was fun, or they had practices for fun, like the chore.
Yeah.
And that was at Tokyo Foods.
And an inspirational morning or startup meeting that's not just about like reporting out on what needs to happen today, but like high energy and getting people inspired and ready to be working with energy and connected to purpose too. Like people have to say the thing that they want to be number one at, their dreams, and it's like inspirational, but you all leave feeling like, wow, I'm ready to do something more. And so, yeah, how do we connect with that heart and that that's like a way of revitalizing the spirit for the day.
Every day,
Yeah. So how do we bring more energy into what we do?
Because even if you went into that chore experience thinking, oh, I don't want to do this.
You can't.
You have to, and then you do get that energy.
Yeah.
So it had a really positive impact, and like it made it exciting.
I want to connect that too to one of the concepts that you and Daiki talked about in terms of rolefulness, and that one of the key things of being more roleful. So it's about being more connected to how are we actually realizing and having a good impact in each of the roles we play, is about greetings and how important a greeting is, and connecting with people and acknowledging them. And to do that with positive energy, actually then you're giving positive energy, but it then creates positive energy for someone else. And so how do we have more greetings? And that was actually one of the key takeaways for one of the leaders on my program, because her team works remotely. And she's like, wow, we don't have time for greetings. We just kind of get into the work. We're on these Zooms. And so she's like, I'm going to have a startup meeting that's really short, but I'm going to do something with energy. And she's like, I'm also going to send a greeting out to my team every day, even if it's in like a Teams or a Slack channel, send something acknowledging their work and like somehow making a human connection before just getting there. So that really has got me thinking about that. The ways that we connect as human beings is so important. The other thing I wanted to talk about too, Nick, is how serious and committed leaders are here about creating their cultures. And we heard from several different Japanese leaders too about like, wow, I think cultures weren't so great. So it's not like all of Japan is like Toyota, and like some of them are getting started. So some are maybe doing this for 20 years, some for just a handful of years, some for decades. It all came from intentionality from the leaders and their commitment to really connecting with the heart and having a long-term view and putting people before profit. And there's a concept, sampo yoshi, and maybe you can explain that. It's the essence, I think, that really makes a lot of Japanese companies different. I feel like we've lost some of this in many of our Western companies. Now, there are a lot of great Western companies with fabulous leaders, but let's talk about what sampo yoshi is.
Yeah, I've actually done a podcast on this, so it was familiar to me. So san meaning three, po meaning direction, and yoshi basically meaning good. So it's this idea of it's merchants. I can't remember which area, but going back several hundred years, they had this belief that we should operate in a way that's obviously good for the customer, good for our business, and then good for the community. And that's how far the way Japanese think goes back. It's like we're not just doing it for profit, for us to succeed. I guess that also ties into this collective mindset of Japan. There's all these ideas of, don't cause trouble for other people, be sensitive, be aware. But, Japanese would rather succeed together and make sure everyone's looked after, I guess, rather than someone wanting to make lots of money, exit a company and really have no concern for their staff or their community. So there is this communal awareness or awareness of social obligation that's, I think, ingrained into Japanese culture. And then you have these terms like sampo yoshi that I guess just become words because it's a common practice. And that's why Japan has these unique words like ikigai or kaizen or ibasho, because they have these concepts that we can understand, but they haven't crystallized it to a word because they do practice it, whereas we probably don't. So yeah, sampo yoshi was great to learn. There was so much learning.
Yeah, and even at Ina Foods, and was it Yonpo Yoshi? It's like they've added one more direction, which they say for the future. So have that long-term tree ring management view, really looking at the environment, not just the community, but the world, like good for the environment. And I think one of we had a sustainability expert on our trip this time too, and a lot of interest in how Japanese companies are looking at sustainability, and it's sort of inherent. It's like they don't need, like they're already doing things for the sustainable future because that's just part of what you do for being good for the goodness in three ways. And so yeah, I thought that was interesting as well.
And it was also one of your participants said, "I've come to Japan and I've seen the SDG logo everywhere, Sustainable Development Goals." And she had no idea it was so common and something Japanese companies care about or invest time in. And it sounds like in both Australia and the States, it's not a big thing.
I hadn't. Yeah. I mean, I only know about the SDGs because of going to places like Europe and in Canada. Actually, they had those out, so it was very, very interesting to me. And how Japan has this concept of motainai, which is regret for waste. And so a lot of the companies, like even though they have some scrap maybe from their products, so like we saw some food manufacturers, they're like say, well, all that scrap then goes to fertilizer, to other things. So we actually have zero waste. There's waste for the actual product, but it's not true waste because it's, it's it's being used in other ways, and it has value or it's being utilized.
Yeah, it was like a zero spillage and zero waste.
Yes.
And if we can't use the waste in the factory, we'll use it
in other ways.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to keep talking so much more about this, but I want to highlight something too, that in the sort of lean and continuous improvement world, there's always a debate, is it 7 wastes or 8 wastes? And the chairman of a Toyota supplier got up and was talking about the 7 wastes. And he even said, I know that in the West, they talk about the 8th waste, which is usually the waste of human intellect or the human capability. He's like, that doesn't make sense at all. The 7 wastes are there to help bring light to employees, the different like waste of motion, the waste of inventory. The purpose is for them to then learn to see, so that 8th waste actually doesn't make sense as much. And so because the purpose is around the learning aspect. So anyway, I thought that was very interesting because we always have this different debates, and we, is it 3S or 5S? Well, we tend to overcomplicate things in the S. Let's get back to the essence and keep it simple.
Yeah, that did make me think we, maybe in the West or countries outside of Japan or just in general, we have this desire to tweak or change things once we've just learnt it, or we have some general idea about it. And we think, this would be improved if we added another rule to it. And we don't think, I should really go deeper into these 7 wastes or these, 3 ideas. So that's something I've learned in Japan, is to go deeper rather than change it or, instantly reject it or think it's crazy or unusual.
Well, I'm laughing because it makes me think about the concept of Ikigai and how it's now, we had to put a framework on it, and like now people equate Ikigai with this Venn diagram of 4 points, and you always are talking about like that can maybe be a helpful framework, but it actually gets away from the essence of the concept. And so we get away from the essence and that concept of like, what is the essence of the meaning and the real purpose? And I think that was a key theme about all the companies and leaders we talked to and visited. All talked about getting back to the essence, getting back to the purpose, the simplicity, the real meaning, and even this concept of like, it's more important to be than to do. That's the essence of being over doing. And I've talked about this on one of my very first podcasts. It was in response to going to Ina Foods and one of my past Japan experiences. I think that was episode even 4, where like the essence is being, not just doing. And we're in a do world. And we don't take the time to slow down, to reflect, to be. We're just very reactive. We put value on the action and not necessarily the reflection.
Yeah. And then ironically, to flip that, there was also that teaching of, in Japan, they want to do right, and in the West, we want to be right, as in we know better.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a flip lesson, isn't it?
Right. So being is more important than doing, and then do right. Don't quote unquote be right. Yeah. So, but the different meanings of the same word. But yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Once you are being, you then know to do right.
Yes. Do the right thing.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was a joy to, I mean, for me, it was also like noticing the little things, you know, we're a group of 20, we're going into all these restaurants, we're kicking off our shoes, and I was thinking, like, where do we put them? And I asked one of the staff, like, where do we put our shoes? And they're like, no, it's okay, we'll take care of it. And of course, they line them up perfectly. Then once the meal's ended, they've taken them back out and lined them up perfectly for us to put them on. And it's this level of service, and they genuinely seem happy to do that. I don't want to be picking up someone's smelly shoes.
No. Omotenashi, deep hospitality. And it gets back to I'm here to serve you. But as we talked about, it's not a one-way hospitality, and that's that concept of rolefulness. It's about giving and receiving, right? And so it's not just I only give, but it's about knowing how to receive and be part of that shared. We're both playing a role, but it's one based in gratitude and appreciation and acknowledgement of what we can both do to make it a positive, meaningful experience. And I just like that. Those are those little things that I love here in Japan, and really want to bring back to the essence of what people can take back. You can't read these things. You can know about it intellectually, and this is where the value of these experiential, programs that we put on. You host your Ikigai retreat. I have the Japan leadership experience, both immersive, hands-on times to get away. And we talked about that too, the power of getting away and out of your day-to-day to really be able to learn something new and experience that. What was your experience of getting away from your day-to-day and being on this week, Nick?
I got to say it's a joy to be a participant, and rather than doing your role and worrying about everything. I mean, the whole experience, I was so touched when you offered me a spot, and I was like, wow, and you also gave me the opportunity to talk on rolefulness and be part of, kind of be a participant, but also support you as well, which, I love doing. So, I mean, once I knew I was coming, I thought I'm going to clear my calendar so I don't have to do any calls during the time I'm here. That was important because I really wanted to, not worry about any calls. So, this space, Yutori, this idea of gap or space, it's actually another psychological concept that's evolved from a general idea of gap or space. It's similar to Ma. Ma's more philosophical, I'd say. Yutori's more kind of immediate and practical. So having this space where you can forget even like your familiar roles, like, I'm not being a husband or father, really. I can do a call and a message, but I've got this time to really be free of my, I wouldn't call them, burdens, but be free of my work.
Be fully present in this experience. Yeah.
So, and then that's where the magic happens, because I wasn't worried about this or that. I wasn't thinking I have to do this. And then, I also got to connect and have these really meaningful discussions with many of your participants. And I think leaders need this, because leaders tend to be extremely proactive, that they have something always going on in their mind. They're ambitious. And, if someone says, I need a break, I'm stressed, I'm sick, they'll go, okay, to their employees. But rarely, as a leader, do you take time off. You kind of have this tendency to push through. So I think you providing this opportunity to say for a week, you're going to put aside all these roles. You'll have a new role, essentially, as a student, participant, and then see what you've studied or see a different way of doing things to what you're doing in your home country. Yeah, it must be, we know the impact it has. It's sort of life-changing. It's transformational. So, yeah, I guess I think it's essential is what I'd say. Yeah.
I know it's always try and explain why, the words people use are transformational, life-changing, like powerful, inspirational, actionable. Like it really, I mean, I can say all that, but it's like already the WhatsApp channel is like, coming through with those words. And, I have a lot of individuals who come on the Japan Leadership Experience, and I have cohorts from the same company that have come. There's one company that sent 30 people over the last 6 groups. Another company who's investing in sending, and now they've had several cohorts of 3 to 5 people on a few of the programs. And I've had some intact senior executive teams from a few healthcare organizations and another company come. And the power of them being able to have, so it's an incredible individual learning experience, but the power of coming together, at least as a cohort or a small, like a pair or a small group, is that you can have that shared learning experience and have that journey together so that when you go back and have that time away to really reflect. And so I'm excited for the next cohort. I have a few cohorts of some executive teams coming, and it's going to be really powerful. It always is. Every cohort has a different personality because of the individuals, and they're all fantastic and great. And going back, that gives me joy in Ikigai. So it's been great to have some reflections. We could probably talk for hours, and we have. And one of the things that I always am a little sad at the end of each program is I love spending the time in person with people. But I know this is not the last time that you and I are together. And I really encourage everyone to listen to some of our podcasts, both on the Ikigai Tribe and Chain of Learning, to go deeper into these Japanese concepts. Reach out to Nick. He has a new book coming out next year of a year of Ikigai. And then, of course, he has Ikigai Kan and then rolefulness. And then, learning to lead, leading to learn. So, and they're very complementary books, talking from different perspectives about Japanese and Western concepts and how we can really take them into the Japanese concepts and how we can take them into our Western lives and apply the concepts to make our life and work better. So, and of course, our friendship is the most important. I know, it's great. And I've always say 1 + 1 equals much more than 2. And I really believe that. And that's the essence of the chain of learning. Like our links together are the strength and the connection. And that's how we grow. So thank you for being an important part of my chain of learning, and we can grow this together. So thank you everyone for listening. Listening to our live or our immediate reflections in November of 2025 here in Tokyo. And you can follow Nick and Ikigai Tribe.
Yep.
abjanderson.com and Chain of Learning. And motainai.
Motainai, and just thank you. You're my inspiration. And I could go on, but I was really touched that you invited me. So
it was a great
good
week.
to be a friend.
Yes,
and good times ahead.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye. This episode was brought to you by the Ikigai Coach Certification Program, the only Ikigai Coach certification supported and endorsed by Japan's leading Ikigai experts. If you'd like to help others discover meaning and purpose in their lives, visit ikigaitribe.com to learn more.